Hey, hello and welcome to the Digital Health Hackers podcast, where we go innovators and trailblazers in the digital health space. Today, I have a special guest, Reshma Khilnani, who is the founder CEO at Medplum, and I'm grateful to have you for this show. So, Reshma, what's been your story and how did you get started with Medplum? Can you tell me more about this?
Sure thing. Thank you for having me. And hi, everyone. I'm Reshma, co-founder and CEO of Medplum. We make open source health record development platform. That is our thing. And I am a longtime healthcare IT person, but before I was in healthcare IT, I was in big tech. So Microsoft, I was between 1,000 and 2,000 employees at Facebook, now Meta, long time ago, and a longtime member of the YC community as well with my first company and with Medplum. So kind of a crossover person, healthcare IT and tech. And I think I've been working in dev tools for a long time, and that's really like this dev tools interest is part of what we're really into at Medplum. And we think of ourselves actually as a dev tools company, though we are, in EHR land as well. So we are crossover folks. We're a small team. Founders include, Cody Eberson, Rahul Agarwal, Cody, and some of the other MedPlum team members were leaders at One Medical and built a lot of their backend infrastructure. And Rahul hails from Palantir. He really experienced with like a lot of payer systems, analytics, and hardcore data stuff. So we are really passionate about this space, and we hope to make a difference to the everyday dev in healthcare IT. I mean, their lives are not good today, as you might imagine.
So if you were to, break down what is the problem that Medplum is trying to solve in a few sentences? Yep.
So I'll give two perspectives on it. One is kind of from the business buyer or clinical buyer. Medplum is a way to build a custom medical app or custom electronic health record. So if you have a specific use case, pediatrics, cardiology, oncology, you need a specific bespoke workflow, Medplum's a great choice for that. From the dev perspective, if you want to build an application that is relatively easy to maintain, that you don't have to like do a huge lift on the infra to get the data store, the auth, and all that. Medplum is a great choice for that, and it gives you the control that you need. And we have great documentation and open source. So that's the problem that we're trying to help people solve. Um, in general, the highly bespoke workflow is germane to healthcare. I think people need a lot of specific stuff, and that's why you need to program.
Perfect. So again, in this channel, I think we've gone over the same problem multiple times, and this is people trying to build for healthcare. The
Yeah.
first wall that they hit, especially, and I think your focus is the US market, right? So
Yes.
people, when they want to get a workflow out there, they usually look at, let me build a custom app on an existing EHR like Epic, Cerner, and let me try to add to their workflow, right? So is Medplum making that bet, or are you trying to create, like, just strip out the EHR and be the headless EHR of the future?
The answer is both. And I think that, you have to be able to enable complex composable scenarios to be successful in healthcare IT. If you go into an organization and you're like, bam, I'm going to replatform you, you're going to switch over. That's going to be like organ rejection. I think, for to use another um, healthcare analogy. What you need to do is like progressively enhance people's workflow and get them up to where they need to go. So specifically for the US market, the legacy EHRs, Epic, Cerner, all the certified ones need to support an interface called the G10, the FHIR G10 interface. And that gives an avenue to connect a system of record to another system of record, at least in a very basic way. For example, to synchronize patient demographic or something like that. And that is our avenue to kind of get footholds into the system. We also serve new practices who a traditional EHR would never work for them. For example, Roman and 30 Madison, our customers, they have people in lots and lots of states, and traditional EHR, just won't work. So those are kind of the different angles on the same set of problems.
Got it. So for existing systems, you help them integrate with Medplum, and then you help them, let's say, be G10 compliant, and then also like share via this FHIR API. Whereas
That's right.
for new systems, you start with Medplum as the backend, and they're
Yes.
able to build on top of Medplum.
Totally. So the kind of industry lingo is like a sidecar application or a primary EHR. We support both scenarios. So we are a community as well as a product. We're an open source community. So on our website, people have done videos of their implementations. I encourage folks to come and check it out. Chamber Cardio, for example, recently released a video of their sidecar application. Very cool one that's combination of Retool plus Medplum. And then there's kind of very traditional healthcare records like Develo has done a pediatric EHR top to bottom, and they've done a video of their implementation as well. So I encourage folks to check it out, or if you can link to it in your...
Yeah, sure. I'll put it in the link. Like people can definitely check it out. But here my question is, let's say that Medplum offers a FHIR first API. For application developers. Is this API, again, so G10 and the US core profile tells you to do a bunch of stuff, and then most EHRs follow that, and they're like, okay, we've checked the box. And there is the other set of APIs that you need to really build a working application. So what has your experience been here? Can you talk a little bit more?
We are taking the FHIR API to the max. We're not just going for the 13 core resources that you need to do the US core. We support the full spec. We have a GraphQL implementation. We support GraphQL introspection. So if you are a dev, you can load it into your tool so you can navigate. We have a GraphQL implementation too that lets you build your GraphQL query and get the stuff back. We have a React component library. We have WebSockets so that you can have that real-time subscriptions. So this is, from a dev perspective, backend as a service with FHIR as the data model, plus a powerful integration engine that supports HL7, binary files, all of those things, healthcare specific things that are so inaccessible in tools. So, we really live the FHIR kind of dream, and we're pushing it to its more mature conclusion so you could really use it as a backend as a service.
Understood. So here it seems like, there are other players in the space like Health Samurai, Smile CDR, who offer this, but I don't think anyone has it as simple and quick to set up as Medplum. So a lot of people come to me saying that, hey, I have set this up with Medplum. I'm trying Medplum as my backend right now. Even here in India, and these are EHR vendors who are into the serious EHR business, and now they are taking a new look at FHIR, and they want to use something like Medplum as their backend. How is this working out? Can someone really build a fully fledged EHR just on top of Medplum FHIR APIs?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, you got to check out the videos. People have done it and they have shared their video. And you can absolutely do it. We also have a sample application at provider.medplum.com that gives it looks like more like a notepad EHR, but the idea that there is a canonical EHR that will solve all the use cases is false. It does not exist. And so there will always be some level of programming, even if you buy something like Epic. So that should be understood by all parties. But can you do it? Yes. And our goal is that we've put so much documentation, so much material out there in the world, so you could also learn how to do it. in my experience. Someone with a great product mind and like specific product vision could actually make a lot of progress with a small dev team.
Okay. I think, I'm excited about these demos that, I really want to show this to the audience and make sure that they get your comments as well and the context in which this was built and so on. You can feel free to, share your screen. And if you have this ready, we can definitely show this and comment on this live to the audience. What do you think?
Sure thing. Let's do it. I'll do a 1-minute demo. As this is kind of healthcare IT, I would hate to bore anybody too much, but I want people to visualize in their mind, like say a lot of the audience probably FHIR, they know about FHIR, right? Let me start here. So this is an application that is FHIR native. Okay. So you see here, everything in here is FHIR, including like the identity management system. These, can you see my mouse?
Yep.
Yeah.
We can.
Okay. So this is like a patient resource with a binary file attached as her profile picture. This is allergy intolerance. We have like support for all the code systems and whatnot. Problem list, these are conditions. This is just like a cool looking UI on top of the conditions resource, medication request, observation. These are communication resources. And then, whoops, you'll forgive my live demos here.
It's Murphy's Law. Has to happen with live demos.
All right. I program a lot of these myself as the CEO, so you'll also forgive the, I'm limited programming. I do a lot of multitasking. So, FHIR questionnaire, all these like workflow, these are FHIR tasks in the middle, full chart. There's a lot of workflow that you can implement in FHIR, and this is something that many folks don't really appreciate because they think of it more as like a data interop. But here's an example of like, you can review this diagnostic report. These are like FHIR observations here. And like these are practitioner, all the lab stuff, and you can release it if you want, which is just updating the status. So this is like a FHIR native application, and all that data is available on your FHIR server. So if that same data, you can go, see the fields, edit in our forms, see the JSON. This is all accessible via the API. This is a React component library that is kind of displaying the data. So that's part of what's very cool. And we support profiles. So if you want to and our React components are profile aware. So if you want to conform to the profile, you can get a CRUD operations either via API or in the React component library. So for the real FHIR nerds out there, hopefully this is something exciting. And we don't just support FHIR, of course, like we love it, but oops, sorry, I'm sharing the provider. Oh, this is what I was narrating before. But this is just like a view on the database where you can see the full data, edit with a form, apply or view a profile. That's really a lot of the features of the database in a React component library kind of form. And then I will also show one more. We don't just support FHIR. We love FHIR, but we know that, there's a lot of interop at the edge, HL7, CDA, binary files, REST APIs, all kinds. So we have this concept of bots, which is our interfacing engine that's cloud native. So these run in AWS Lambda, and you can process the files or process various message types. This example is HL7. So say this HL7 is inbound, you could process it and produce the ACK here. And then this, little Lambda is creating the patient from the ADT feed, for example. Is
Okay.
that helpful for a demo? Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
No, this is great. I think uh, it's nice to see that the you're using this as the core source of truth, and then you've literally built out these different components and these SDKs and these tooling around FHIR to make so many use cases possible.
That's the dream. I mean, we call ourselves an EHR company. That's more like a communication device, but actually this is backend as a service. People have built LIMS, EDC, which is like for clinical research, um, and sidecar applications of various kinds, reporting solution, dashboard. So it's very general purpose in that respect. So even if you already have an EHR, please think about us as well. If you have, for example, data with user patient provenance or something like that.
Okay. So this brings me to the question of, let's say that we want to consider this a replacement for the traditional EHR, because
Yeah.
whenever they talk about EHR, some people say EMR, some people say LIMS, HMIS. There are just a bunch of these jargon terms, and we just want to say let's reinvent all of this. You have this central clinical data repository, and you build everything on top as applications, right? So
Yep.
when you go to a real customer or a real hospital who is like, hey, I am a neurosurgery hospital.
Yep.
I want my neurosurgery workflows today. Is
Yeah.
there, can they take Medplum as the backend as a service, and can they take apps from somewhere and just run with their use case?
They can. So that provider app I showed you is open source. So can be a good starting point. Usually, the core demographic is already there. The allergies and the patient demographic, medications, basic history. The zone of action for many of these implementations are really the workflow and the chart.
Okay.
What needs to be captured. You usually need to make a custom flow sheet or some kind of a custom workflow. Sometimes tasking is different task types are important, or checklist, that type of thing. But that is if you want to bring it to your specialty, the playbook there. Certainly, the FHIR data model supports that. I'm sure you're familiar with that. You can really model. We have terminology in there too. So you need to put your SNOMED, LOINC, whatever that's there.
Got it.
So
Got it.
there's a learning curve on the data model, which I guess I appreciate the hard work of folks like you to kind of get people mentally over the hump. If they understand their data model and the state machine that they need to move through, they're good shape.
Okay. So, no, definitely. I think, once they have the APIs and they know, okay, this is how I model a patient or an encounter or an observation, then they
Yep.
can get these things off the ground. But there is also the problem of, let's say, today let's say I'm a practitioner who wants to just adopt your system. Um, I don't want to spend more effort building on top of it, right? So again, we are seeing these health data platforms provide these no code or low code tools,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure. So what's your take on, is there something in which people can just take your product, configure their workflows on top of it for it to just work for their use case?
Yeah. So this is a really good question. I'm glad we are discussing it, because I think there is this thought of many people that I don't want to build. It's too much work. Every EHR is programmed. Every EHR is programmed. If you take Epic, you buy Athena, all of the major platforms, all the low code platforms, they are programmed to some extent. And what we believe is that if you want to get that truly ergonomic workflow with no clunk, you need to have some awareness of the programming.
Hmm.
We are working very hard to lighten the lift, but ultimately, I believe it's unrealistic to say that you could build with no code or low code, a really awesome EHR. You could get like a lightweight experience, probably within reach. What I do think we believe is, becoming true with platforms like Medplum is that you don't need to be a healthcare expert. You can be like a React dev with some experience, building React apps, but you don't need to be like steeped in the healthcare IT lore, which there's not that many of us, and that we think is going to be like a near reality. And then if you're outsourcing the back end, you don't need someone who's like hardcore into authentication and security and all that stuff. So it really lightens the lift. Ultimately, also developers have this like, developers generally hate low code because it's like it feels like you're typing with oven mitts on or something. So that's we are true to our core. We really care about the dev and we think about them as a first class citizen.
Got it. So your answer to this is even if you are a small setup and you want to set it up, you can afford the resources to actually set up that initial development to get your ergonomic workflow in place.
Yeah. You'll see like there's a whole cottage industry of people building tools around the EHR. You might be familiar with that. Like it's the same thing, except we're explicitly supporting it and showing you how to do it versus a kind of skunk works thing.
Got it. That's a very interesting take on it because we are just seeing these proliferation of these low code tools and these low code analytic solutions. Yeah, I think even Palantir, since you said that, they are doing some work in the healthcare industry where they have their data lake building multiple things on top. And any comments on that?
Absolutely. I think it's kind of rungs on a ladder. Like you have to have the right expectations with regards to what you could get. Certainly, as roads become more traveled, the low code becomes more accessible. So, but if you're doing something on the cutting edge, or if you really want to support that, you don't want people to have to do multiple clicks. You want them to be very able to use their phone, all those things that are just ergonomic. You can't have like all those things at once.
Yeah. Got it. So there is like a triangle of like pick two.
I was thinking maybe, triangle and pick two, or maybe Maslow's hierarchy of healthcare IT. Certainly a very basic chart, or basic revenue cycle, no problem. The thing where you need to chart that medication and encounter, and then this procedure and this equipment was used and all that, that's going to be more challenging.
Got it. So again, we've tried building an EHR on FHIR, right? And then it's there are a few things which it does really well. And then when you start getting into, let's say, the data points that are not well modeled by anyone. So for example, let's say we work for an oncology hospital, and they wanted to represent a few things like, whether or not a very particular cycle of like a particular regimen was it given. And they had a lot of data points that they needed to represent along with that regimen, right? So it's kind of like a medication order, but it's really not. It's like it has a lot of other things on it. So how do developers do this on top of Medplum today?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, there are avenues to customize FHIR in various ways that can serve for this purpose. For example, people make their own ontologies, and they, SNOMED doesn't quite work. Their observations, maybe in this case, they need to look to verify that various observations of their custom code system exist, might be one potential path to solve that problem. And then you do need kind of the business logic to basically check, programmatically check or programmatically enforce workflow. For us, really, that is the bots. Bots can be used for that use case. Like in your example, say they want to, every time they see a new change to a record, they want to like look at all that patient's history, tally up whether they've met the regimen, or catalog where they are in that regimen. So that is a great use case for a bot.
Got it.
And
so these bots can, kind of act on the FHIR resources, right?
yes.
So I'm talking about the problem where, let's say, the FHIR resource does not have a field, and then you want to represent that data that belongs in that resource. That it belongs in that resource, but then it does not, it's not defined by US core. It's not defined by anyone. Do they just like go into the extension space? They start like adding that in the database?
So we do have some, Medplum resources that are our own. And because we have like realized this issue, but we do counsel people to like think about how to model it and go to like chat.fhir.org and ask folks how to model it before you kind of get into the specifics. But binary files are well supported by Medplum. People use them for various purposes. If you need things indexed, then like the code systems and the custom resources are really a avenue, and the custom ontologies, value sets, I guess, or concept maps.
Got it.
I do think people are like, the fact that it's hard to model is germane to the whole, like, the representation of medical data is a hard problem. Even if you don't consider programming or anything like that.
And I think that's definitely, I agree with that, and maybe has to do with how the domain is in general. We are changing all the time, and when people can see, they have defined a set of data points, and people can agree on, okay, what the data points should be. But then when you are in territory where maybe it's not even a data point that is clinical, you want to represent, like, let's say, an inventory item, whether or not it's in the storage unit. So
Totally.
like, do people invent their own resources? Can they create their own resources in Medplum?
At present, no, though there is kind of support for that generally, but in our hosted offering, we kind of control it. What we do see folks doing is, the FHIR identifier system is very powerful, and you can basically link systems that way. And in that like supply example, you could be like, oh, what is the inventory stock? I don't know, it's not here in FHIR, but I have a link to the table that it's in. And that is, for those who are doing inventory or like double entry accounting, that is a common pattern. I think though, like there is, and we also, look carefully at whether profile could support this scenario and whether there's an existing profile that makes sense, that's like at a level of maturity that's good. So diligence plus like careful breaking of the seal. Ultimately, like every time you don't use the standard, you're creating another silo. So that's a real issue. And you gotta, as a leader in a digital health organization, be judicious about that use and make sure that you're not like making something that's really hard to maintain.
Right. Definitely think, having that data platform, even just having those FHIR APIs be the source of truth in an organization can make a lot of difference from having multiple hundreds of different databases that nobody knows about or it doesn't talk to each other.
Yeah. And one employee quitting away from being obsolete, that's a common thing.
Exactly. So, I think Medplum has been here for a while. Can you tell the audience about, where have you had your big wins and your small wins, and where are you being implemented right now, and something that that'll blow people away, maybe.
Sure. I mean, we've been around for about 2 years, so it hasn't been like a really long time, but it is the product of like a lot of knowledge and implementations in the past. Our team jointly has built a system like Medplum many times and are now doing it open source because we've seen the use case for it again and again. So um, we are a really sweat the details company, and we would encourage folks to come to our repository and come to our community to like really see things in action. That's what we're very proud of and what we think of as a big win. And our customers, you can also see them on our website, and many of them have also made videos, include companies, very widely varied, like Flexpa is a user of Medplum, and they're making a plaid for healthcare type of thing using the payer APIs. The lots of pediatric implementations, because like commonly the EHRs are just not well suited to caregiver access and like treating multiple patients at once. So that is like a winning scenario for us, and we're really excited about it. And then the 50 state customers, like we mentioned before, like Roman and 30 Medicine, like these have a decent footprint across states, and so managing that is like a thing that is top of mind for those type of practices. And we also see a lot of messaging use cases and have a messaging-centric EHR. Summer Health has a good implementation online that is worth watching, I think, for those who are interested in messaging. And the real wins that we hope to bring to our customers is that they could have this great custom application. A lot of them are incorporating AI elements to improve workflow and like data quality and those aspects as well.
I mean, pretty impressive for just 2 years, I would say. You've come a very long way.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I mean, we are really like in the trenches. We work very hard on making the implementations really work. We don't want to have a kind of it looks good on paper but doesn't actually work kind of scenario. So we're very focused on making the implementation successful.
I think this brings me to the conversation about open source in general and commercialization strategies around open source. I think there was a lot of infamous recent events, especially with Redis and like changing the licenses and so on. So Medplum is completely open source. It's on GitHub. People can use it for free of cost. What is your monetization strategy, and what's your take on someone like Redis changing their license?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, so Medplum, we are a commercial open source company, and it's not open source as in free software. I think that's like a confusion that people have in the past. The real use case for open source is composability. And if the reason it's open source is so you can effectively stitch all of your systems together and not reach a roadblock that is so common in proprietary systems. So we want to set people's expectation that this is commercial open source. And really the free and open source version, it doesn't have all the compliances built in and the certifications that you'd need. And it's there for the dev to do their build. But if you are running it in production and you have like a commercial use case where you're treating patients, you should have an enterprise edition and a contract, and that's to get your certification and compliance to the right way. So we're hoping to have clarity with our customers in that regard, and really make the case to them, showing, not telling, the value prop, right? Like, this is what you would get. That you would get it. And so we have a clear expectation with them. I do think that there's one thing that Medplum has in its favor that others like have problems with is there isn't really like a hobbyist use case for EHR. Like if you're treating patients, you're treating patients, right? It's not like you're making a fun app just on the side. If you are, that's off the beaten path. And maybe illegal. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess
I'm
like
not a
most are
right. So,
serious EHR developers. Yeah.
yeah, something like there's other businesses that have this kind of shape and less controversy. I think Red Panda or something like
Mm.
that is maybe the more closer example, or GitLab or some. It's more clear.
Got it. Got it. So again, that's a very good point for people who are in healthcare who want to open source. Uh, Compliance is still gonna be hard. Like you gotta get that done. So having compliance as an added feature to your open source implementation makes a lot of sense.
And the devs don't really care about compliance. It's like the legal and the risk management folks. So it's we are speaking to our audience, and then the buyer, they have a clear framework for like how they think about making that purchasing decision. So
Excellent. So your core audience is always the healthcare developer.
yes, that's our people. And we're hoping that more folks will like try and want to join the industry. Like the healthcare dev of years past, they have a hard life. Like they need to solve a problem. They go Google around. First thing it says, contact sales, no documentation. They have no idea if it really works. It's a huge drag on the productivity of the workforce overall. So we hope to break that cycle and really like give them a delightful experience.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people make money by putting a gate against knowledge. So, for example, HL7 V2, for example, it used to be that you need to pay a license to even get access to as the standard. And a lot of these integration engines came into the picture, and they're just like, people didn't understand it enough. So they're like, I'll pay you money to get this done.
Totally. That's not that is our hope to not do that. A lot of some of the commercial features of Medplum have a legacy of that, in that like we cannot put information out there because it's not allowed. So that's kind of forcing our hand in some respects too, and we're not immune to that.
Okay.
But we're
Okay.
hoping that the industry will change. Ultimately, like if we talk about tech transformation at the healthcare institution level, everyone having more technical literacy, or at least there being a competency for this app development and how to, manage and control your own system, that's will be what's needed in the future.
Makes sense.
And
Think,
hopefully it's a bright future. Like people won't have such a clunky application. They will be able to get it into the shape that they need it to be, or automated.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe. I think a lot of what you say also resonates with the cost of developing custom software is coming down, I think, faster than we would like. And it seems like AI could build new apps much quicker these days, right? So do you see a future where your conviction on needing custom software for getting the right workflows, that goes hand in hand with being able to generate these custom software like much faster, and then you see a future where people are just able to maybe even interact with Medplum as just a headless uh, assistant, or I don't know what do you have in store? What's your future plans? What are you doing? Yeah.
So we do think that building a very basic EHR is actually probably could be done by a machine. I think that's not too far fetched. The maintenance of an EHR is huge, and that's part of like really the value prop that we are giving at Medplum. You can see we're putting stuff in every day. You got to upgrade the dependencies, got to constantly pen test. You have to make sure that you have the right versions of everything, and then the regs change every year. So we're ONC certified and CMS. Every year you need a new profile, you need to conform against the new version. So that is something that like it makes sense for a organization or a professional machine maybe to do that, like versus that business logic automation that you described. So I do see a role for both. And ultimately, what is, if you have great abstractions, like data management, and then business logic is cleanly abstracted, then the bots can be more powerful, right? Or the automations. And I think idea of a headless EHR would, I mean, like truly headless, like an EHR with no UI sounds very cool. It sounds awesome.
So what do you have in store for, what's your plan this year? What are you excited about?
So for us, we are super excited about the infrastructure. So are continuing to make a lot of investments in our real-time infrastructure. We have a on-premise connector called the Medplum agent, which is rolling out, which, for example, if you have an HL7 feed, you want to connect it to your cloud. Like that's something that's really exciting and a lot of people are getting benefit out of. And continuing to mature our implementations and grow the community and have people share their story and spread the word that like there's a different way to develop these applications. So that's what we're excited about. And thank you for thinking about sharing our story with your group. I think FHIR enthusiasts are like people we love to know.
Yeah, so for the people who are, watching this and excited to know what steps they need to take next, what should they do?
So come to medplum.com. We have in the footer of our website 2 things which are worth looking at. One is a Discord community if you want to join, hang out, ask any questions. We love that. 2, we have videos in the case studies there, like look at people's implementations and for some inspo, and try and make your own application. I think that's what we hope for folks. And if you have something complex, please feel free to reach out to me, Reshma at medplum.com. It's, we have a lot of varied experience and enthusiasm for the domain and for getting great implementations out there.
Excellent. So I'll definitely put the links to the demos and the other use cases that you just explained in the description down below. You can also, check out medplum.com. I'll put that in the description as well. Go to their Discord and spam Reshma, I guess. Okay.
I have aggressive anti-spam techniques, so you can try, but not.
Okay.
Great. Thanks for this.
Thank you, Reshma. Thank you for taking the time, and this was great to just discuss all of these different things that you're doing. So best of luck